Before we start the first encounter, have everyone take out these ads and then head through the portal in front of you. To save time, I won't be going through loadouts, but if you want, you can find them on screen before each encounter. And now before we start the actual encounter, number your team 1 to 6 and then split your team into 2 teams of 3 maintaining numeric positions. This means that team 1 should consist of number 1, 2 and 3, and team 2 should consist of numbers 4, 5 and 6. Now assign team 1 the role of outside, that's going to be the first room, and assign team 2 as the runners and they'll be heading through the cave. To start the first encounter, shoot this cube, which we will now refer to as the key going onwards. You'll need to create a link all the way to this door in order to open it, so start with number 1 making the link, and then have the following numbers link themselves off of one another in order to open the door. If you haven't already realized, you're essentially forming a chain from the key. Just be aware that moving too far away from each other or the key will break the chain, so be wary of that. Once the door opens, have team 2 make their way to the next door, making sure to kill all of the Cyclops and Overlord Minotaur as they do. If you do not kill them, you will not be able to spawn the Hydra required to open the door. The Overlord Minotaur is super strong, meaning he will just keep coming at you, so this is where you can use the Overload rounds to stun him, making killing him much easier. I also find that the 1k also makes this really easy. And also bear in mind that once team 2 kills their 1 Cyclops, team 1 will have 2 Cyclops spawning for them. So it's handy to call out to them when you're going to kill the Cyclops to avoid them getting blindsided. Also be sure to kill as many ads as possible or they'll make this 10 times harder. Now as team 2 is doing this, team 1 will need to play their part. When the encounter starts, the boss will be flying around periodically, spawning in a white overflow charge. There will be a total of 3 of these, and it is extremely important to have each one of them picked up quickly when they spawn, or else they will wipe your team. When picking it up, you'll also have a cooldown before you can pick another one up, meaning you'll need each person to pick one up. This is of course why we have numbers 1 to 3 and 4 to 6. So when the first charge spawns, have number 1 pick it up simply by standing in it. If you do not pick the charge up quick enough, it will explode and wipe your team. A little ad wave later, the second one will spawn in, so you'll need number 2 of course to pick it up, and the same for number 3. Also to make things easier, call out your number when you pick up a charge so that your teammates know who is picking up next. Again, be aware that each time the inside team kills their Cyclops, team 1 will have 2 Cyclops spawning with them. Make sure they're killed fast because they deal a lot of damage. Anyway, once all 3 charges have been picked up, head inside and meet up with team 2, who should by now have noticed a Hydra has spawned at their door. They'll need to kill the Hydra in order to unlock the force field, stopping them from using the key next to the door. Once the Hydra is dead, they can use the key to unlock the door. However, if the door is not opened quick enough at any time during the encounter, the boss will spawn another charge, which will most likely result in your team wiping. But by now, team 1 should have arrived, at which point they'll head through the door, continuing team 2's job from the beginning. Team 2 will now have the boss with them, and they'll be doing what team 1 was doing at the beginning, effectively reversing the team roles, meaning number 4 will pick up the first charge, 5 the second, and 6 the third. And once team 1 kills a Cyclops in the next room, team 2 will have 2 Cyclops spawning with them, and when you open the next door, the roles will reverse again. So it's important before heading into this raid that both teams know how to play each role. For the second door key, it's a little harder to spot, spawning around the corner and sometimes under the platform, so have a good look for it. Once team 1 opens up the door, they will go back to their original roles, collecting the 3 buffs, and team 2 will press forward. As soon as you head inside, take out the Cyclops up top. This will of course spawn the 2 Cyclops for team 1, and then clear ads as you climb up the steps to the top. Once you kill the Overlord Minotaur and Hydra, you'll need to unlock the door, this time with the help of team 1, as there will be 3 keys this time. Each lock you unlock will slow down the boss from placing another buff, so you don't need to rush for all 3 of them, but it does help to be quick. The first lock will be by the steps you came up, the second in the center just off of the platform, and the third will be in the corner floating up. You will need multiple players to chain to this door, so just bear that in mind. And once the door is open, your whole team will essentially be sprinting to the finish, collecting the final 3 buffs along the way. The only difference here is that the whole field will be full of Cyclops and Minotaur, so you'll have to dodge them as you run by. Also, don't worry about collecting the buffs from the boss in order. All that matters is that they are picked up so you don't wipe. It also does not matter if you die with the buff so long as you pick it up. And also, you don't need to kill any of the enemies that you're running by. Once your team communicate that all 3 buffs have been picked up, sprint on to the end where you should receive your loot. Now before we head over to the next encounter, follow where I go in the gameplay to find a secret chest. Now, in order to reach the next encounter, once again follow where I go in the gameplay. And as I take you there, you can also find the next encounter's loadouts on screen now. Before we start the next encounter, assign 4 people numbers 1 to 4. This will be the defending team. The last 2 players will be the runners, and they should be both assigned to a pair of numbers. 1 player should be the runner for 1 and 2, and 1 player should be the runner for 3 and 4. Here's the layout of the map showing you everything you will encounter in this encounter. You can also find a link to this map in the description down below. The goal of this encounter is to defend all 4 towers in order to reach the center and unlock the final tower. The keys in this encounter are used to unlock the towers instead of the doors, and when the tower is activated, anyone linked to the key at the time will be given a buff called Enlightened. This buff is super important because when buffed with it, you will be able to kill enemies shielded with a white overshield. These enemies have to be killed before they reach your tower, or else they will sacrifice themselves to it. I'm unsure currently, but I'm pretty sure that if 3 or more enemies sacrifice themselves to the tower at any point, they will wipe you, so these enemies should be top priority at all times. It should also be noted that this goes for any enemy, not just the shielded ones. Speaking of shielded enemies, if you're a defender, you may find yourself running into enemies with a red immunity shield. In order to break this, you need to use the new anti-barrier rounds. So to start off the encounter, kill the goblins at Tower 1 and have Runner 1 and Defender 1 take out the Hydra and link the tower. They will then remain there for now. The rest of the team will head left, making their way around the arena clockwise, unlocking each tower as they do. For every tower unlocked, the respective tower defender will stay there. Each time you reach a new tower, it will have a new Hydra there, which will need to be killed fast in order to unlock the key for that tower. If you do not kill it, you will not be able to unlock said tower. The moment Tower 2 becomes active, Runner 1 will notice a portal has opened up to the left of spawn. They should now begin a never-ending loop of jumping through the portal in order to keep buffing and helping out towers 1 and 2. The rest of the team will of course by now be at tower 3. At this point, Defender 3 will stay on there on their own, and Runner 2 and Defender 4 will head to the final tower. And once the final tower is unlocked, the second runner will begin their loop between numbers 3 and 4, helping and buffing them as needed. Essentially, all this counter will be is a game of relay as the runners feed buffs to their respective tower defenders, so just one big tower defense game. If at any point the tower defenders need desperate help, i.e. a buff or help with enemies, they should make the following call out in a loud and clear voice. Tower number needs help with either a buff or enemies. This will make sure the runners get to you quickly and safely. You should ask for a new buff around the 15-second mark. Now during the encounter, certain towers, each one at a time, will have 3 Hydras attacking them, sealing off the key and stopping that tower from receiving any buffs in a bid to take it down. In order to stop this, the runner from said tower will need to work together with the defender to take them down quickly in order to regain the buff, as the white shielded enemies will keep attacking during this period. You should also bear in mind that during this period, another tower is still waiting for that runner to give them a buff, so you need to do this quick. Once all 4 sides have killed their Hydras, soon after, all of the doors in the encounter will open up in the arena for the last stand. Have everyone immediately head into the center, where they will need to work together as a team to unlock the center tower. During this, you will have Hydras spawning at a distance down the hallways, which will lock the key down again. These guys need to be second priority next to the white shielded guys who will still be trying to wipe you at the tower. You'll also be dealing with a new type of enemy, an explosive bunch of harpies that deal an absolute ton of damage if they blow up on you. There's not really a solid strategy for this part of the raid, but what I would recommend is having everyone focus the adds, and then when they get the chance to, take out the Hydras and chain to the tower. Once all keys have been used on the tower will be unlocked and the encounter will be completed. You can now receive your chest. Your next encounter's loadouts are also on screen now. So before we start the encounter, assign 2 teams of 3. One team will be the Gambit team and one team will be the boss team. Now assign positions to each player in the boss team being left, right and center. To start the encounter, all you have to do is chain the key to the center tower. When the encounter starts, the Harpy boss will return alongside a bunch of adds. However, the yellow bar Minotaurs is what the Gambit team is going to be interested in. These enemies will drop 5 motes when killed, which should be picked up by one player only at a time from the Gambit team. The reason for this is that the motes have a timer on them, and if that timer runs out, you will lose the motes. It's also easier and more convenient for one player to deposit 5 motes instead of 3 players depositing like 2, 1 and 3 motes. It's up to your team to decide who wants to pick them up at any given time, and once the person with the motes has possession of them, they'll be making their way back to one of the towers which are returning from the previous encounter. You'll know what tower to go to because it will have a light shooting out of the top of it, and once you reach the tower, deposit the motes inside of it. The Gambit team will need to pop in at least 30 motes in order to start the damage phase. You should however be aware that enemies will be trying to sacrifice themselves to this tower, which will drain your motes and also wipe you if too many of them sacrifice. These enemies will have the white overshield, which once again returns from encounter 2. Players who place motes in the bank will receive the buff for 45 seconds in order to kill them. For that reason, it's a good idea to have one person defending the bank and have the other 2 players collecting the motes. Once someone banks the motes, they'll be defending the bank, and the defender, who should by now have no buff, will go collecting the motes, meaning the Gambit team's job is basically just playing a game of relay. Now for the boss team's job. You may notice when facing the main tower from the key that there is a long copper corridor with a huge door at the end of it. This is what we will refer to as top, the rest is common sense. To the left of that is left, to the right is right, and where the key is will be bottom. These callouts will come in handy once the encounter starts, as the boss will move down one of those corridors. You will call that out to the rest of the boss team, and all of you will head down and stand in front of the boss. Left and right will stay clear from middle to avoid accidentally grabbing the buff. Once middle is buffed, the boss will spread his wings out and shine 2 lights on each wing. However, for middle, only one set of these lights will be lit up. Whichever middle's lit lights are, they should call out to their team. For example, if these are the lights that are lit up for middle, they will call out that it is outer because they are the furthest out from the eye. And if these lights are lit up, they will call out inner as they are the closest to the eye. When you hear the first call out, everyone should shoot that specific light until it is broken. If you hit the wrong eye with as little as 1 bullet, or you do not kill the eye quick enough, middle will die. If done correctly, you will continue the same thing by following the boss, popping the eyes and repeating. It's inevitable that middle will not be able to grab another buff after they grab that one, in which case they'll communicate a swap with either left or right. At this point the roles reverse and right will do middle's job and middle will do right's job. Remember that no matter what, you always hit the wing closest to your position, so right will always hit the right wing, middle will always hit the top wing, and left will always hit the left wing. Once Gambit team hits 30 motes, the boss should show a message on screen indicating that he is going to the bank to, I don't know, steal the motes. You'll want to follow quickly and begin hitting all of the glowing eyes on him immediately. If you do not, he will charge an attack that will wipe your team. Once all eyes are down, shoot at the glowing white eye. This is where the weapons of light comes into handy for more DPS. Be aware, however, that while doing this, the boss will retreat like a fucking pussy, so you'll want to chase him down constantly, dealing DPS. You can also use the tether to stop him from moving as quickly. If you do not deal enough damage to him, it will wipe your team, and if you do, you'll either one phase him or have to repeat the encounter's mechanics again to finish him off in the next damage phase. It should also be noted that after 2 phases of damage, you will see the enrage is near message telling you that basically you have to kill him in the next phase or you will wipe. But regardless, once you do kill him, you can collect your chest and then move on to the next encounter. However, before we do that, we have a very long way to trudge in order to get to a secret chest. There's a timestamp on screen if you want to skip straight to the next encounter. Your loadouts for the next encounter are also on screen now. Before we start this encounter, assign 3 teams of 2. One team will be Team 1, one team will be Team 2, and the last team will be the defenders. You should assign one person from the defenders to left side and one to right side. So let's talk about the boss. During the encounter, he will be destroying various parts of the floor which will need repairing using the glowing towers on each side. Meaning if he destroys a part of the floor closest to the blue tower, you should chain to the key closest to said tower. Just make sure that every single ad is clear before repairing for the easiest time. It should only take 2 people to repair a section, however there may be pieces which require 3 people. Also remember that you don't need to repair every part of the floor, just the main platforms surrounding the towers. It should also be noted that stepping on the floor as it's being taken away, that's the red glow, will kill you. Stepping into the water will also damage you over time. The tethering and repairing mechanic will come into use multiple times throughout the encounter, so be sure to get it down for every player in your team. Other than that, your job as a defender is to stop the Vex from sacrificing themselves to the towers during the encounter. This should always be your #1 priority. As for Team 1 and Team 2, your job is relatively simple. When the encounter starts, you do that by shooting the boss. A Hydra will spawn in as usual, locking down the keys. You'll want to help kill it very fast. Shortly after, the boss should have a glowing spot on his left shoulder and right leg. Shooting at these spots will do a number of things. Firstly, a portal will appear either on the left or right side of the encounter. If you shot the leg, it will be a blue portal, and if you shot the shoulder, it will be an orange portal. A Cyclops will also spawn on one of the far outer pillars depending on which side you shot. If you shot leg, it will spawn on the left, and if you shot shoulder, it will spawn on the right. Kill them quickly as per usual since they deal a ton of damage. So when the encounter starts, have your team hit the leg first, and then once the portal opens up, have Team 1 head inside quickly before the portal despawns. Once inside, they'll be teleported to an arena full of ads, which as before will drop motes when killed. You'll want to kill all of the ads and pick up all of the motes dropped, but you can only hold 10 per person. At this point, shout to your teammates that you need pulling back in, at which point they will shoot the same spot again to pull you back into the arena. Team 2 will then head inside the moment they see the portal open, at which point they will repeat your job from before. By now you'll be teleported back in, and as soon as you come back, go and bank your motes in the matching tower. If you went into the blue portal, deposit into the blue tower, and then if orange, deposit into the orange tower. It helps to wait around 10 seconds in between each of you banking in order to gain more time with the buff. Speaking of buff, you'll receive the Enlightened buff, at which point white shielded Vex will begin spawning in like mad. They'll be on the way to your bank to sacrifice. Have each player from Team 1 split up on left and right, taking out the white shields before they do so. You don't have to kill them, just as long as you knock their shields off, you should be fine. Once Team 2 has all motes, they'll need at least 15, you'll pull them back in and they will also deposit their motes. Once motes are banked, it's crucial that no Vex sacrifice or they will steal motes from your bank. This will stop you reaching damage phase and 9 times out of 10 result in a wipe, as you will need 60 to start it. But once both teams deposit, it's simply a rinse and repeat cycle, this time on the right portal. This is the shoulder spot. Team 1 goes in, grabs 15 motes, comes out, Team 2 goes in and repeats, and then they deposit. Once the second portal cycle is complete and you have banked 60 motes in total collectively, it's time to start the damage phase. The boss will spawn in a final Hydra along with a bunch of ads, both white shield and non-shielded. These will of course be taken care of by the buffed players, or while the rest of the team finish up killing the Hydra and repairing any platforms they still may need to do. These will of course be taken care of by the buffed players, or while the rest of the team finish up killing the Hydra, but you won't be able to repair any platforms until the damage phase is over. Once all of this is done, you'll by now have noticed a large coloured key in front of the boss. This is how we start the damage phase, and depending on what colour it is, your team will need to work together to link themselves up to it. It does help to have a specific set of people doing the tether for each side, for example the runners, but it isn't required by any means. Remember that if you do not have at least 60 motes deposited, you will not be able to complete the link to start damage phase, and the boss will end up wiping you. You can send someone back inside to gather more motes, but it is highly unlikely that you can do it in time, so it's best just to wipe. Once the link is complete, you'll have a short amount of time to deal some damage to the boss before he puts up another key. Be warned that you will not have long at all to activate it before your damage phase ends, so make sure your team is ready to tether the second key extremely fast. It seems that the next key will always be the opposite of the first one you activated, so if you activated the blue key first, it's a good idea to wait near the orange key in preparation. For this reason, it's good to have those tethering head to the opposite side ready to tether, whilst those not tethering head to the other side and deal some DPS. Be warned that if if you deal no DPS to the boss, he will not summon the next key and your damage phase will end. It's also a good idea to hold out on your bubble and well until the second key is activated. Also, at the time of recording this guide, there seems to be a visual glitch causing the second key to always show as blue despite it being a different color, so just bear that in mind. Anyway, after the second key is activated, the towers used will be destroyed, meaning from then on you'll have to be tethering from a new tower. But regardless, your team can place down their Well of Radiance and bubble and begin damage phase. The boss's crit spot is the glowing white area in his chest. Izanagi's Burden is great, especially if you use the reload trick to load a charged shot every time. To do this, simply hold the reload button as you shoot. It's also a good idea to shoot a tether off at the boss during DPS in order to gain more damage. It's highly unlikely that you will finish the boss off in one phase of damage, in which you will repeat the encounter's mechanics until he is dead. Just be aware that this boss has an enrage mechanic, meaning this time you only have 4 phases to kill him, but once done you will have killed the boss and will then be able to go and receive your loot. Congratulations, you have just beaten the Garden of Salvation raid in Destiny 2. Big thank you to my team for all of their help, and big thank you to channel members Cooked Kiwi and Valventine for all of their support. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.